Hello, and welcome to the 10th Lake County Film Festival. This is the Q&A for the feature documentary Bleeding Audio, which is about the punk band The Matches. And we are really pleased tonight to have Chelsea Christer, the director, boop. Aaron Persley, the producer, boop. And two members of the band, Justin on bass and Matt on drums. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. It's a gloomy night in San Francisco. It's nice.
Not as late at night over there, at least, right? I thought this was perfect. What'd you say?
Late for me.
Oh,
it's late for me.
Are you an early to bed?
I'm a grandma.
Early to you. That exactly is what I had you pegged for, a grandma. I thought this was a perfect Friday night rock and roll movie, but I'm not feeling rock and roll right now, unfortunately. Maybe it's because I'm stuck at home and it's been a long week. But anyway, sorry. So I've got some questions for you here, and maybe if we're lucky, some people will chime in with some questions. They can leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, and let me check our Discord real quick here. Because I almost forgot last time. Yeah. Chelsea, when did you first hear the Matches, and what made you fall in love with them?
Well, sorry, my internet kind of cut out a little bit there. Can you repeat that one more time?
When did you first hear the Matches, and what made you fall in love with them?
Oh, when did I first hear the Matches? So I saw the Matches open for what was my favorite band, Motion City Soundtrack, and they blew me away. They were so energetic. It was unlike anything I had ever seen on a stage. And I was hooked ever since. And so eventually when I moved to San Francisco for film school, I asked permission to make a little short doc about them as a school project, and then became friends. And then, here we are all these years later where they let me make a feature-length documentary about them. So it's been a long journey, but it was probably about 15 years ago when I first heard the Matches.
Wow, cool. Who's got a good story about a time they saw a band and liked the opening band more? Aaron, I saw a smile there. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think of a specific one. There's a couple. I can't think of a specific one, but there's definitely some opening bands that you're surprised when you get to the show. You're like, oh my gosh, like you almost were going to get there late and then miss it, and then so happy you get there early. I'm trying to think of a specific example. Let me come back to me.
I got one.
Yeah, hit me.
I went to see Hot Heat at a tiny club you guys know called Bob, and they holds 300 people. And the Yeah Yeahs were opening for them, and I'd only heard the name, but I didn't know anything about them. And got there early, not intending to see the opening band, and then we were like, "What is this? This is crazy!" And then a year later, they were this huge band. But anyway, that was a cool opening band that I got to see that I wasn't planning on seeing.
Justin, are you frozen? I think Justin's frozen. He already went in and out a couple times.
Matt, that is so legit.
That was pretty crazy.
Sorry, my internet's going in and out. I'm missing all of. I can't hear you guys.
I wonder if I can.
I
can't turn off. See if you can turn off your video. We don't need to see that. We just want to hear what you have to say. All right, Aaron, did you think of anything? Aaron,
what was that?
Did you think of anything?
Only I can think of is I remember one time when I was there was another show. I think it wasn't Bottom of the Hill, but it was at the Independent in the city. And the opener was the Dodos. And I hadn't heard of them before, and they were awesome. And I think I've seen them a couple times, just them, since then. So I think it's great when you can see an opening band that actually you become a fan afterwards, and you start buying the albums sort of unexpectedly.
Does anyone know who the Blue Meanies are?
I know the name. The ska band?
Yeah, punk, ska punk, metal.
Okay.
You know, all that. I saw them open for Green Day once. Like I wasn't going to see.
Love a ska band. Love a ska band.
I was going to see Green Day. We had a tiny club here that was 4 bands on Sundays for $5, and I went to see a different opener, and the Blue Meanies blew me away, and then some band called Green Day was on after that, and we left. So what, Chelsea? What made you decide to make this feature-length documentary? Oh, we got.
Hey, I think my internet cut out there for a second too. Was the question what made me decide to make the movie?
The feature, yes.
Yeah. It's interesting, the specificity around the word feature, because when I first started putting together ideas to make this movie, a lot of people told me, oh, that sounds like a short film. Like it shouldn't be more than 30 minutes long. And I went, no, this is this saga that needs to be told. And so when really it was when the shows sold out in seconds that I had the realization that there was a bigger story here. And it wasn't just, a story of redemption and just, this redefining success in a digital era. It was also it was like a full circle emotional story too, because I feel like each of these guys kind of parted from the matches with a different sort of feeling of maybe failure or bitterness. And when the reunions sold out, it was a really strong moment of validation for all of them, which I think in their own separate ways was so important and crucial to making this a feature-length film.
Matt, is that how you felt? Did you feel just shock at the sellouts? Did you feel?
It was unexpected, I think, for everyone in the band. And yeah, I mean, we were all kind of just in disbelief, and we had to try and figure out what to do after it sold out so quick. So yeah, we're field as I think it's in the movie, we were fielding, calls and texts from our parents and siblings and friends. Everyone thought like that they were all getting the same internet glitch at the same time because they couldn't get tickets. And we were like, I know I did too. I was like, that's not real. Like, just wait 10 minutes and reload the page. And then, nope, it was real. And we had to wait till Monday though to find out that it was for real.
You had no indications, like website hits or your Facebook.
No, because the funny, like our band went on indefinite hiatus, aka broke up. Right at the start of we were a band active in the MySpace era, so like we didn't have very many followers on Facebook and Twitter. Instagram wasn't even a thing, I don't think, and if it was, none of us were on it in 2008, 2009. So we didn't have a huge social media following, so we had no way to really gauge fan engagement with us announcing a show, even because we had I think we probably got 300 people liked it on Facebook or something. We're like, oh, that's cool, but that we had no idea.
I can relate to that actually so much. I started this film festival in 2004, and it ran until 2011. And then I had a kid, and I sort of had to go on this hiatus for 8 years. Yep. And then I kind of had to start all over. And so if I go to the Wayback Machine, I can find my MySpace page where I had 3,000 MySpace friends, and even now after being back for 2 years, I only have 580 Facebook followers. Well, it's like unfortunately, I didn't just start with a sellout like that,
We won the lottery with that one, I think. But yeah, it's we just had no way to truly know, because we had been inactive at a time when everything became about social media engagement, and we had no presence at all.
Wow, that is amazing. So
it was kind of clever, just to chime in too. It was clever too, the way that they started teasing the reunion was actually becoming active on social media. That was the big thing that started drumming up interest is they created an Instagram for the first time in like 2014 and started posting all these old school photos. And it started to kind of gain a lot of interest and traction. And, people were just like, what the hell is going on? I mean, I think all the guys were getting texts and of people asking what's really happening here. And and then it just, again, like snowballed. So
I'm so disappointed actually, because one of my favorite bands, which broke up in 97, 98, started popping up on social media. I feel like about a year ago, and they've been hinting, "Oh, something's coming," and then they finally announced it last week, and it's just a vinyl reissue of one of their albums. I'm like, I need a reunion. I need, if not an album, I need at least a show or something. But
Yeah.
What a tease.
I know. So how did you, we've got your producer here. What was your role? Where did you guys, how did you guys start the process? What was your role, Erin?
Yeah, so I came on about halfway through the film. So Chelsea is a rock star. I've been on this film for about 6 years. I really ran into Chelsea at a sort of a female filmmaker collective, and she talked about the project, and it sounded really interesting, and said she needed a producer. And then she sent me, which was such a rough cut, but at that point was a more, we thought it was a farther along cut 3 years ago. And I watched it, and even in its sort of like raw, jumbled form, I was like, oh crap, this is a great story. I really want to be a part of it. And I also, Chelsea's sort of like a fierce sort of proponent of the film as a whole. And so I really just wanted to work with her, and then really wanted to see the film through. I didn't know it was going to take 3 years, obviously, but no surprise. But I came on, and then we 3 years in November. It's 2017. So it's been a journey, but it's been fantastic. And we've sort of been working together along the way, and now obviously with 2020 being such a weird year, we're sort of learning how to get this film out there, because we want the most people to see it. So it's been a long journey, but I'm super psyched to be working with Chelsea on it.
Cool. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit, and it's kind of cool that that we've got Matt here. Which I didn't know. So my note was to talk to Chelsea about how you think independent film and independent music are similar. So it'll be interesting to get the opposite perspective too, Matt, as you may have seen Chelsea going through this film. What's similar and what's different?
I'll just like, I was like, I'll chime in with some of my observations first. Is that it's remarkably similar. I think, as an independent filmmaker, you put your whole heart, savings account, and soul into making something. And it's like an investment in hoping to land a major record deal, right? And you want to get someone to like buy the film, put it out so the whole world can see it, and then you'll get your second album, you'll get your second film, right? And so it's been remarkably similar in that way, and also with very similar pitfalls that I feel like the matches went through. Is there's a lot of people who, I don't want to sound too bitter here, but there's a lot of people who I feel like parade themselves through the industry and, come with all these connections and all of these ideas and, sort of sway the enthusiastic, energetic filmmaker like myself and end up
the phrase
not really having the experience that they say they do, or not really, being a member of the team or having the best interests of the actual art at heart, and I feel like that's something that I've witnessed in parallel. I feel like the Matches story ended up being very meta to Bleeding Audio's story in a lot of ways too. Matt, did you want to?
I think the phrase you're looking for is scam artists.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that harsh, but I'm not gonna deny what you're saying.
Okay.
Matt, did you have any observations to date?
Yeah, I mean that's the process of. I mean, I'm not in the film, but the process of making the film is very similar to a band or an artist making their first album. Like, in that you put in usually years of work, all of your savings, borrowing money, what you you have to do to get it done, and then get it out there, and then battling with all the things that come up with trying to get attention for it, whether that's the band getting signed, a film getting distribution or in festivals, all that stuff. There's a lot of parallels between the two worlds. Both the film and music worlds are full of scam artists and people pretending to be things they're not, or inflating. The creative industries have lots of ego and resume inflation. It kind of goes with the territory, and then sometimes people live up to the inflation eventually, and lots of times they never do. But so I'm sure we've both experienced lots of similar experiences with those types of people and companies and all that stuff. But I think there's a lot of parallel definitely between like an artist making their first album, because you feel like you have all this stuff in front of you, years of work go into it. You kind of have like endless possibilities, and you struggle to make ends meet, and then you have this product that you're really proud of, hopefully at the end of it. And then now it's like, what now do I do with it, and how do we let people know it exists? So there's definitely similarities, I would imagine, with making a film, especially with the first feature length, and then letting it out into the world and seeing what happens.
Yeah, and is Justin still there, but off video?
No,
he
dropped out and hasn't come back yet.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can
Carl the
come
Fog
back.
Eat him.
Carl the Fog just ate him right up. Let me see if I can find him.
What about and while we're waiting for Chelsea, Aaron and Matt too. What about the shockingly vast income inequality in both industries?
Oh,
I have opinions about that.
Chelsea, yeah, your eyes just.
I mean, here's what I'll say about that, and this is just a general opinion I have, is I feel like the music industry has always been stacked against the artist. I feel like that's just been institutionally the systemic problem from the start. And the only reason why it's so noticeable right now is because there's less capital flowing through the music industry, right? Is that it's like, there's all this money for like record sales, and music had monetary value, and the people who were marketing it made this much, and the bands are making this much. But now that there's only this much, the like artists are making this much, and the powers that be are making that much more. But also like I mean it's just like there's so many, I have so many feelings about it, but I feel like the film industry in particular, I feel like the film industry has its own issues, but I do feel like it was an industry that was built as a business, and it was built as a business that kind of supported artists, or if anything else, the stars maybe a little bit more than some of the below the line people or anybody who's, behind the scenes. But it's, I feel like it's complicated on both ends, and it isn't 100% equitable across like, all of the different people who contribute to creating this art. But I feel like the music industry has just been a mess from the start, and it's just more noticeable now,
Yeah. Well, the gap I was talking about wasn't even executives versus actual artists, but just, independent filmmakers who are struggling so much, and then the very successful filmmakers who are doing so well. And obviously, bands are in a similar state, where the kind of popular people are getting big deals, and everyone else is left to fend for crumbs,
It's definitely the way it is.
Well, and even streaming payout, especially on Spotify, it's not paid out equally, like a 1-to-1 ratio. It's paid out like, isn't it pro rata? Is that the right term? Where it's paid out where like, if you have this amount, you're going to get like the larger piece of the pie. But if you only have this amount, like it doesn't matter if it's, equitable to this larger piece of pie based on these streams, you only have this much. So you're only going to get that much. It's not great.
But Chelsea, you raised an interesting point that, obviously you can probably tell, I think about the philosophy of art, often. And I'd never actually thought about the fact that while music is something that we did in, for thousands of years. Film was always a business. It's only been around for, I mean, maybe, even Méliès was a businessman. Justin is back.
Oh, good.
Hi,
You
Justin.
made it.
Hi. We'll see if this works. I switched from my iPad to my phone. See if that makes any difference.
You missed the party, man.
Yeah.
It's been a real party.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, music has been around for ages, but film hasn't, and film was basically structurally built as a business. But like music, if you think about it, what happened was, it was, I mean, the whole mechanicals thing. It's like once music was able to be recorded, that's where business people came in and were like, "Hey, artist, like I know business. Let me help you." So it's an interesting and different history. It feels like
That is probably where the middleman stopped in. The physical media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's such a boon, and also it's such a positive and a negative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, Matt, I'm sure Mr. Lawyer Pants over here. He can like chime in on some of that music business stuff.
Well, I mean, everything you guys said from my perspective is spot on. I mean, it's, stacked against creatives in general, but that's because the business people got in first and set up the system the way that it works for them. And it's probably the same way with the film world. I don't know enough about the details of the film world, but for an artist, for example, to be able to get an audit of their royalty account with their record label, it's like, good luck. You can try and do it. It's going to cost more than it's worth doing, and that's exactly what the record labels want you to do, is to not bother doing it. And there's also countless examples of faulty, shady accounting, and I'm sure that's very prevalent in the film industry as well. Because once you have so many people trying to get cuts of things, the numbers start getting fuzzy. But at the end of the day, artists only have as much power as they can try and get, and it's stacked against them. But on the flip side, it's easier than ever for artists to be truly independent if they want, and have a way to at least get their work out there. You still have to get people to find out who you are, but that's the blessing of the internet age, is that independent artists have a way to get their work out there now.
Have you guys retained your masters? Are you doing anything with your albums yourselves, or are they still on Epitaph?
The debut album we got them back.
Yeah, that's
not a Yvonne Dahl. That's not a common thing, so we're lucky in that regard. The second and third albums though are with Epitaph for a while longer, and that's to be expected. That's a standard thing. But yeah, so we as you were speaking about the band that was putting out a vinyl reissue, and that you were hoping they were like reuniting. But for us, that was like what we did when we reunited in 2014, that Chelsea started capturing stuff, was like we reissued the album ourselves for the first time when we had the rights to it back. So we made a vinyl version that we'd never done that before. We put it up on the streaming services again, but so now we get all the money from that for that album, stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool.
But you guys did a show,
Yeah, we did the show.
At least you guys did a show.
At least we did the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And why did I buy two colors of the vinyl? I don't know. I just needed to have it. I don't know.
You're a collector, right?
Oh.
No.
Did we lose?
I just kicked Justin out accidentally. Hey.
You kicked him out? Oh,
sorry. My finger slipped on the enter key and did that. Chelsea, who did you make especially when you're looking at writing and editing this film? Who did you make this film for, really?
Ooh. That's a great question. I haven't been asked that question yet. Honestly, I 100% made this film for the fans, both current Matches fans and the ones who have yet to be converted. And that was kind of the mentality that we had the whole time. Was we wanted to make a movie that would turn anyone into a fan, whether or not who the Matches are going into a movie. The thought was, this movie is for Matches fans, and if you watch the movie, hopefully by the end of it, you're a fan of the Matches. So yeah.
Well, for me, and I think the film really does this well. I don't know if you saw. Well, you liked it, so you saw the review that a friend of mine. I'll give him a shout out, Popcorn Dick, my favorite film reviewer, who is also a rock musician. He says, luckily, being a fan of the Matches is not a prerequisite for enjoying what director Chelsea Christer is doing here. We've all loved bands that we thought should have been bigger. Some of us have even been in those bands. But in true Capra-esque fashion, Christer challenges antiquated notions of SoundScan success while making the case for the Matches as a George Bailey for the Warped Tour generation.
It's my favorite review.
I feel like the film has so much more to offer that you might not have to be a Matches fan or a punk fan or maybe even a rock fan to really enjoy it. And I was just curious how much of that was on purpose. I mean, when you were doing this, were you thinking, I want to appeal to other people besides the people that already like this band? And how, and what did you do to reach that end result?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I think I purposely surrounded myself in the storytelling process of this movie with people who had no idea who the Matches were. I gave a lot of creative and collaborative leniency to everybody. I mean, I brought Erin in. She had never known who the Matches were. My first editor on the film, Jen Bradwell, she didn't know who the Matches were. I really wanted this to appeal to people who had no idea who the Matches were. That was the goal. And one of the things that really helped with that was, I mean, these guys are my friends, family basically. And like one of the things that I did was just break down their characters as if it was a screenwriting exercise, and think about, their characters' journeys throughout the film. And so something that Erin, Luke, and I did is we, when we were trying to hone the film down into a, nice, clean 90 minutes, the path that we used is the hero's journey. Is we actually mapped out every beat of the film to the hero's journey to make it that accessible story that we all know, is like, that's such a beating drum in so many of the stories that we see today. And so we kept that same formula. And not only that, but we instead of having it be about so much the the success and the milestones, we tried to make sure that every moment that happens had something character related or something that emotionally affected one of the guys, so that you could kind of clock the journey for each of them throughout the film and make it more of a personal human story than just one that's about a band. It's about them as people. I don't know, Erin, did you want to chime in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, we want to make it sustainable because the idea here is it's about one band, but really it's about any artist or any creative. It's like the same way of like, how do you sustain a career, right? Like, I mean, Chelsea and I have talked about this just as filmmakers, like how do we make this a lifelong sort of process, right? Not just sort of the short little moment. So I think all creatives can sort of connect with that. But I think also it is character driven. It really is about like connecting with each one of the guys in the band, but also sort of like we all have that moment where we want to sort of strive for those goals. So I think that back and forth is really relatable. But I think Chelsea's totally right. I mean, we constantly were thinking about, you know, people who have no idea who the matches are. Can they watch this film and still sort of identify with it, connect with it? You know, the theme of community, the theme of sort of like what that means, I think was really important. So, and I remember, you know, parts along the last couple of years when we were doing the really heavy lifting with the editing, was constantly having people watch it who were not, you know, familiar with the band and getting feedback from a whole host of people, music people, film people, so, you know, friends and family, to really make sure that we weren't, you know, because you get sort of in this like tunnel vision when you're in that movie for that long, and you have to sort of constantly sort of pull yourself out, even as a team, and sort of figure out like, okay, what are we doing here? Does this make sense? Is this landing? Are people connecting with this moment? And then you want to make sure, obviously, like, you know, the sound design, the music is great because we want to highlight that as well. But, you know, it's a combination of those two things for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's actually to Aaron's point, is we had a few like filmmaker community test screenings before we had an actual, like, you know, more fleshed out test screening. And it wasn't until like the one kind of official test screening we had that we brought in one Matches fan, just one, you know, because we thought, okay, like not a single Matches fan has seen this so far. We've stripped out a ton of stuff. Like, let's bring in one person who is actually like a Matches fan, but also is like a music industry professional, to like give us both sides of the coin, you know. And that helped. I feel like that helps too, to gauge like what fan interest would be. And then also, you know, but we brought it in really late. You know, we tried very hard not to bring any fan interest or input super early, because we knew we would be a little bit blinded by it, you know, like, so that was part of the process.
Matt and Justin, how much did they let you in? How much did Chelsea let you in on the process and the different edits that were going on? Not at all. Not at all. Cool.
Yeah, I got to
That's,
I got to
that's the way it should
see
be.
some. Yeah. I got to see some earlier cuts and parts of stuff, but I don't know. After I tried to see as little as possible. Sorry.
What did you think when she first came to you with the idea of making a film, and what was it like reliving the past, going through all the stuff that from your past to the band?
It was pretty heavy, I guess. Like it was kind of surprising. You know, jump back into it. I think I had put a lot of distance between myself and my past, and like that time, like I had kind of like started a whole new life. So it was kind of or you know, it felt like one stage of my life had ended and like a new stage had started. So it was kind of like, it was weird, kind of like looking back at my life. It was almost like watching a diorama and being like, no, don't do that. They're like, I don't know.
I saw something where Chelsea talked about opening up, you know, all these archives, you know, especially given that you guys are artists, visual as well. So I didn't know if there was a process of digging through all this stuff, like reliving old memories, you know, besides seeing like the process.
Yeah, I was kind of unlucky to kind of I think I got a bunch of the old hard drives that we could find, and I went through a bunch of them and tried to organize them a bit for Chelsea. So yeah, I was in the, you know, it's using like really old hard drives, and some of them aren't working and some of them work, and trying to organize stuff, and then there's like lots of duplicates, and I don't know, I spent hours going through hard drives to try and help out. And it's just crazy that Matt, like at the time you don't really think that you're putting so much stuff down, but like going back and looking through it, you're like, wow, that's a lot of photographs and videos and artwork. You know, you end up collecting over 10 years or so.
Matt, anything to add?
I mean, Justin covered pretty well. It was definitely, I think, cathartic in some ways for everyone, and difficult in some ways for everyone. And I agree with Justin saying, you wish you see parts in the film like, oh, if only we could have paused it there and like done something different. But it also helps put everything in perspective too. And it definitely was, I haven't lived at home for a while, so all my matches memorabilia, as it were, is like in boxes in my parents' garage. So I think they got some of that stuff to Chelsea. I didn't see it, but I can imagine Justin would send some stuff, like even just seeing hearing old pieces of demos of songs and remembering how many iterations of our the process we got to get to the end product of what our songs became is really interesting. And that was, I'm sure, I can only imagine how much stuff was on those hard drives that Justin had, and hearing all the different ideas and all the artwork that Sean and Justin did, and all the ideas for artwork that didn't become final product. And there was so much stuff. So I'm sure that was awesome. And someday I'd like to see it, all of it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Somewhere that'd be cool.
Oh, I've got hard drives full of it, Matt. I'm happy to ship one of them over to you. I also have boxes too, like actual physical boxes. I actually owe your mom a box of photos.
Okay.
I'll have to get them back to her at some point.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I talk to subjects a lot who are in a different stage of their life, and it's a powerful experience to look back. Sometimes, with some sadness, but this was all going on while you guys were, experiencing a new peak. So I was just curious if that was, I mean, you probably don't know how much of those feelings were digging up these memories from the movie versus digging up these memories because you're doing something fun and new, but it's interesting. Chelsea, actually, everyone, what did making this movie teach you?
Ooh. Pass. Just kidding.
Reverse.
Go ahead, Justin.
I'll just start it. I definitely learned I don't think I want to be in another movie.
Well, you kind of are right now, though.
Help.
Well, for me, I feel like I learned a lot of things. I mean, I worked on this damn thing for 6 years, and I feel like I learned a lot about myself as a filmmaker. I had moments of confidence. I had moments of insecurity. But I think the biggest thing that I learned is that like I can do this, and I feel like there are some days where it feels like you just can't. But the second thing I learned was just how important finding really great humans to work with are. And Aaron is one of those humans. And, Jen, Luke, the people at CTSF who helped finish the movie. And there's so many camera operators and so many people along the way that helped make this happen. And it's taught me a lot about about that collaboration. And as a director, your job is to basically find people who are just way more talented than you that you can collaborate with, or people who have that expertise that you can learn from, but that you could also teach something to. It's all about that shared artistic experience. And I'm so excited to do it again. Can't wait for the next one. But anyway, go ahead. Whoever's next.
Who's next? Aaron.
I'll go next. I mean, I think collaboration is a great learning. I think in Chelsea, I think you're totally right though. It's all about once you go through that journey of you can do it, then you feel like you can keep on doing it. But I think the other thing that sort of is something I didn't anticipate to learn is sort of patience. I never think about filmmaking as being a patient art, but you just have to there's you can't rush it. You have to sort of it finds its own timing and its own sort of rhythm. I think as much as Chelsea and I wanted to finish this film maybe 4 years or 2 years ago, I think it was meant to finish now, even in this weird 2020 year. And I think having some patience and sort of trusting your gut when things don't feel right and you sort of have to sort of figure things out. I think that's hard when you're working on a creative project, because you feel this impetus to want to put it out there because you're so passionate about it, but you sort of have to like let it sort of take its own take its own course and its own timing. So I think that was a good learning. I don't know if I'm going to be patient with the next film. I say that now because it's over, but I'm hoping that I'll remember some of these learnings, years from now. But that's, I think, the biggest thing. And I guess, yeah. And I think collaboration is a great way to think about this, is remembering this is not a one man. You're not supposed to be a one man band. You should be a multiple people working together. And that's what makes it, what makes it fun and makes it sort of enjoyable. So I would agree with that.
I will say that I did not learn the patience thing.
All right. Well, now next time,
Next time, maybe. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You could teach it to me on the next.
I'll see what I can do.
I will say, Aaron, since you mentioned 2020, I remember thinking when I watched the film and you uncover this mistake in the music licensing, I remember thinking that's a very 2020 thing to have happen to you.
Yeah, that is a funny way to put it. I mean, it's 2020 because it's that moment where you're just like, how did this whole, I mean, you're sort of confused on how this whole thing worked out. But I think 2020 is the virtual festivals have actually been, maybe Chelsea will argue with me about this, but it's been sort of a blessing. I think it's really nice because we've been, more people are able to see the film because it's virtual. And so that's sort of enjoyable. And I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
I've been loving the virtual film festivals. I just, I would rather sit in a theater and hear everybody, but like, I'm just excited people are seeing the movie. But I want to hear Matt's learning.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with Justin. I don't need to appear on film again anytime soon. But it was enjoyable. I learned a lot. Well, I learned a lot from observing what I hear from Justin and other people about what Chelsea went through, and hear from Chelsea about just getting a film made. So that was eye-opening for me. But also goes back to the parallels we talked about at the beginning of this conversation about the amount of work and things that have to go right and the things that go wrong that go into making a work of art, especially like a debut project, as it were. So I think I learned a lot just about it reminded me how hard it is to like get off the ground and how many like Aaron said too, it takes collaboration, it takes patience, or it takes having people who are patient around you if you aren't patient yourself, which as a band, we definitely relate to that within our band. There's varying degrees of patience within the 4 members of the band, and at different times and in different contexts. But that's what makes all these projects work, is collaboration,
For me, the online thing has been very strange. I'm used to, being up close and personal with audience members and talking to them about the films, and maybe having 15% of the filmmakers show up and do Q&As. And this year, I've had almost no audience interaction with people. They're just not. There's the Discord where there's some messages left and things like that. But on the other hand, yeah, I'm more like 80%, filmmaker contact, filmmaker Q&As and things like that, which is very different, but kind of more exciting, for me, kind of more interesting. But I do love sitting in theaters with people and hearing them watch the films. So
Yeah, there's nothing better than when someone laughs in a spot where you wanted them to laugh, or cry in the spot where you want them to cry. You feel like the great emotional manipulator, and you're like, haha, you did it. It worked.
Yeah.
Success. But no, I mean, we were kind of talking about this before we went online. And I feel like what's exciting about virtual festivals is it is socializing people to like learning that they can access independent film, which is very exciting. We have this new way of people to engage and interact. But I do feel like a lot of audiences haven't quite figured out, okay, I can watch this, but I can also, have a Q&A with the filmmaker or talk to the filmmaker. I feel like, traditional people like who experience, Hollywood movies and stuff is you go to the movie and then you leave, and that's just what you do. But with film festivals, it's a whole community experience, kind of a lot like the matches, here are the matches. They come up and talk to you after the show. And that's the thing that I feel like a lot of bands didn't used to do, you know, and that's like independent cinema, independent music, like it's all about that community. And so while I feel like I'm sure people who are starting to learn the film festival world or who are fans of it still haven't figured out what the virtual engagement section is like, but I'm excited about it. I think that it could have a lot of opportunity for more people to be able to access this world. But yeah, I miss theaters too. Like someone asked me, they're like, what's the first thing you're going to do when, you know, quarantine lifts? And I'm like, go to a movie. And they're like, but you can just watch movies at home. And I just understand. you know, or go to a live show too. Oh God.
Boy, I just lost what I was thinking of in my head.
Sorry.
No. I like just had it, and then you made me, and then I started thinking about movie theaters. Because I was thinking about the fact that I have a movie theater in my house. So it's not just the movie theater; it's the people, right? And I could go. I would feel comfortable going to the movie theater right now because there's so few people there at my local movie theater. I've looked up showtimes and seen that there are no tickets sold at my closest movie theater, but that won't be the same either. You know?
Yeah.
But I had something else in there, and I think I lost it. So what's next for the film, and what's next for the band?
Oh.
I didn't think I was going to get to. I didn't write that down. I didn't think I'd get to ask that one.
Maybe the band wants to answer first.
All you ask,
TBD for the band, you know. I'd say 20. You know, we're in the same boat a lot of people are, that coronavirus in 2020 have thrown everything for a loop. So, you know, we'll see.
Are you guys writing and playing together? You know, not shows, but practicing or anything?
yeah,
I mean, everyone's in 4 different places currently. That's been the way it is for a bit. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I was gonna say we did have tentative plans for this year, and all that kind of went out the window, and so we're just trying to see what we can do and kind of make a long-term plan, which is going to be probably over the next couple of years versus trying to get stuff done this year. So just kind of everything got delayed about a year and a half. So
yeah,
we'll go.
I remember what I was going to say, Chelsea, when you're talking about people learning what film festivals are. I started this film festival in 2004 in Lake County, which is the county between Chicago and the Wisconsin border. It's a county of 750,000 people with almost no outlets for independent film and no outlets for independent music, really, either. If you're a bar band that plays, you know, Van Halen covers, there might be a couple places you can play, but no real outlets for creative, independent-minded music. So when I started my film festival, which was born out of my store that I owned, which was a music and video rental store, the most frequent question I would have when I printed film festival materials and would leave them on the table is, so do I have to make a film to be able to go?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of jokes. Like my favorite SNL skit when they're like at the short film festival and they're like, okay, now come down for the Q&A, and the entire audience empties down onto the stage. You know, but yeah, it is. It's like I feel like a lot of people don't just, you know, there's a very niche, you know, market for film festivals, and I hope that window is opening, you know, for more people to enjoy and access independent film. I don't want to say independent film is better than what you can get at the movie theaters, but it's pretty great.
I usually do for the most part, but well,
Aaron, did you want to say what's next for Bleeding Audio?
Oh yeah, yeah. We are jamming through those virtual festivals. We have one festival that we're in this week that we'll have a Q&A tomorrow. Chelsea's in actually, maybe you should mention about Sound Unseen, and then I'll come back with a Post Sound
Yeah.
Unseen Life.
So obviously we're right now available through Lake County Film Festival, which is very exciting. That goes through the 16th. And then we're also a part, we're hitting up the Midwest. We're a part of Sound Unseen Music and Film Festival, which is for people in Minnesota and Texas. And tomorrow we have a ton of events planned that are available globally. Which is I'll be a part of a filmmaker panel at Sound Unseen, and then there's a live Q&A, a lot like this one, being moderated by Justin of Motion City Soundtrack, and then we're doing a live music showcase too. So, and that's it for our festivals right now, right?
So yeah, stay tuned for 2021 festivals. We plan on sort of doing we'll see what 2021 unfolds in terms of COVID and theaters, but we're going to be a bunch of other virtual festivals. And then hopefully once we all get healthy and vaccinated, we'll do some small theaters and a whole new, and then we'll be in some sort of streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, something of the sort. That's the main goal. So
That's the goal.
You can watch as many times as you want.
Which we're finding is a very common attribute of people who watch the movie. I've been getting a lot of messages of, oh, I'm just like following all your film festivals around. So it's been very flattering.
I should say, for people who are interested, you should join, go to our website, bleeding-audio.com, and then join our newsletter. You can get more information on where the film is playing and what we're doing and fun photos, behind the scenes stuff, that kind of stuff.
And are you guys working on any future projects?
Aaron, you first.
So yeah, I'm working on a feature documentary that I'm directing on not at all music or music related, but it's about abortion clinic escorts in 3 clinics in the U.S. that I'm in early production on. Chelsea, I know you were also writing up a storm.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of writing. Obviously, I've been kind of in this music world for a while, and I feel like while I've told the Matches story, I feel like there's a lot of stories that are untold about how the digital industry has affected musicians physically, mentally, economically, emotionally. And so I've written one script about it, and then I'm also in the early stages of another script that I'm very excited about. That is kind of a blend of all these music industry and identity themes as well. So and that one I can't really talk about yet, but I think that one's going to be pretty exciting. So yeah, it's lots of writing.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Thanks everyone for coming and checking out the movie and checking out the Q&A. We've got a ton more Q&As lined up the next 2 days, and then Monday is closing night with Molto Bella. I mentioned when you guys joined us, my festival was born out of this music store and video store, and music and films about music has always been a huge part of this festival. And when I released my initial slate, I didn't have almost any. And so I was so happy that all 3 that came in late were music related. You guys make a great addition to the philosophy of what I try and do here. So thank you very much for participating, and everyone have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. My